بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
Syria, he benefited from the great Albanian scholar Sheikh and Muhaddith Sheikh Abdul Qadir Arnaout. Afterwards, he traveled to Saudi Arabia, where he stayed a long time, and he associated with the great scholar, the Shuyukh of the Hanabila, Sheikh Allama ibn Aqil, and with Ibn Jibrin and many other scholars. The Sheikh as well took ijazas from many of the great scholars of India and Pakistan, starting, with Sheikh Abdul Ghaffar Hassan, the father of Sheikh Suhaib Hassan, and many other scholars and muhaddis from India and Pakistan. The Sheikh as well wrote many of the biographies, like I mentioned to you before, when Sheikh Ahmad Lakvi did his talk. His great-grandfather, ancestor, Hafiz Muhammad al-Barakallah Lakvi, was a student of Mian Nazir Hussain Delvi. Sheikh Adnan Rashid's ancestor, Hafiz Minajuddin Hazarvi, who hosted the Ghaznavi family when they were expelled, they were students of Mian Nazir Hussain Delvi. And Sheikh Suhaib Hassan's grandfather as well, Sheikh Abdul Jabbar Marpuri. And Sheikh Muhammad Ziad Tuklah got ijazas through all these scholars and wrote all the biographies in his Arabic work and on the forum ALHAQQACADEMY. So the Sheikh now, mashallah, he's a very prolific writer and researcher. He's now completing his PhD in UK. He has done his MA and other studies. He's Imam in Derby in Al Hadith Masjid. So without any, he will speak now about the great scholar of Syria, about which the Sheikh has written a book, Sheikh Muhammad Bahjat Baytar, who was a great scholar. So without any further ado, inshallah, we're very honored to receive Sheikh Muhammad Ziad Tuklah, mashallah. May Allah give him tawfiq. So inshallah, he will carry on from now.
جزاكم الله خيرا. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. جزاكم الله خيرا for this encouraging and introducing. I know myself that I'm still a student and I'm only trying to serve scholars as much as I can, but that doesn't mean that I'm a scholar or I'm only a researcher. I'm still a student, طالب علم. أسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى to forgive us all and guide us to truth and huda. I hope voice is fine, brother, before I carry on. Okay.
Yes, it's all clear.
Inshallah ta'ala. جزاكم الله خير. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, for having this chance with my dear scholars and friends and students. And secondly, I want to apologize from the beginning that my English is not my first language. So you will find this during my lecture. I tried to make it in Arabic, but brother said that it should be in English. So I'll try my best, but please forgive any shortness in language and information. فما أصاب فمن الله عز وجل وما أصبت من الله وما أخطأت فمن نفسي ومن الشيطان. So what we'll have a speech today or tonight is about a very great scholar in Damascus who had a lot of effects in Syria, in Hijaz, in many other places, and also had a good relation with the scholars even in India and many other regions in Egypt and other places, Iraq. His name is Muhammad Bahjat Baytar, rahimahullah ta'ala. This scholar, we will have this word about his life in two parts. One about his biography and the other about his story, the next one. Okay, so I hope now you can see the screen now. So Sheikh Muhammad Bahjat Baytar, rahimahullah ta'ala, he's the grand scholar of Ash-Sham, of Damascus. His name is Muhammad Bahjat ibn Baha ad-Din ibn Abdul Ghani ibn Hassan ibn Ibrahim ibn Muhammad ibn Hassan al-Baytar al-Maydani al-Dimashqi. Al-Maydan is a quarter. It was outside Damascus, but now from last century it's now continuous with Damascus. It's in the south of Damascus, and it's well known about scholars and as a religious quarter, from the most religious quarters, a part of Damascus. His family is from also a scholarship family. It returns to Buleyda from Algeria. his great-grandfather Hassan came to Asham in the 12th century. And when I'm using for the dates and history, I'm only using the Hijri Islamic dates. So he was born in Damascus in the 2nd of Ramadan in the year 1311, and he studied there his for school until secondary, and also he learned French. Then he started from his own, from his private studying from the year 1326 to many of the grand scholars of Damascus. And they are his father, Bahauddin, who was a well-known Imam and a Sufi Sheikh, and his grandfather from his mother, Abdul Razzaq al-Baytar, a very famous historian who has his book حلية البشر في تاريخ القرن الثالث عشر, and his main scholar, Imam Jamal al-Din al-Qasimi. So he was studying with him more than 3 years until his death. And also he studied to Badr al-Din al-Hassani, the main scholar of Damascus, and to Muhammad al-Khadr al-Hussein. This is an old footage of Damascus. And this is also from Hayy al-Maidan, from his quarter. And here are his scholars that he studied to, Jamal al-Din al-Qasimi and his grandfather, Abdul Razzaq Baytar, and Badr al-Din al-Hassani, and Muhammad al-Khadr al-Hussein. And he took ijazah from these four. And when Mahmoud Shukri al-Alusi, the great scholar of Baghdad and Iraq, he came to Damascus in the year 1330, he met him and also he studied with him. He mostly was influenced from his two scholars, Jamal al-Din al-Qasimi and Abdul Razzaq al-Baytar, and studied hadith to both of them and to Badr al-Din al-Hassani. And also he benefited from Muhammad Rashid Rida by his famous magazine, Majallat al-Manar, and from the books of Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah and his student Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. He was very sharp and intelligent from very early, so he wrote a response on Yusuf al-Nabhani, his poetry al-Ra'iyah, when he was 19 years old only. Then he made also a response to one of the Shia scholars called Naqd Ayn al-Mizan. He supported his teacher Jamal al-Din al-Qasimi when he was 20 years old only. It was printed 1331. And when he was in the year 1328, he was 17 years old. His father passed away, so Muhammad Bahjat Baytar was the Imam in the mosque Al-Qa'a, an Imam and Khatib and a teacher there. That's the mosque on the right hand. And then after 7 years or 6 years, his uncle Ahmad also passed away, and he was the Imam and Khatib in the main mosque in Hayy al-Maidan. It's called Jami' Karim al-Din al-Daqqaq. You can see it on the left side of the footage. And this is the second biggest mosque in Damascus after the Grand Umayyad Mosque. So he moved there, and he was now the Imam al-Khatib. And after 1 year, in the year 335, his grandfather Abdul Razzaq passed away. So he was also replacing him in all his teaching jobs. He stayed as a Khatib and Imam until he gave the Imamah to his cousin. Then about Khataba and Tadris, he gave it to our Shaykh Abdul Qadir Ma'oud before he passed away, Rahmatullahi alayhima. So from the life of his Shaykh Jamal al-Din al-Qasimi and his grandfather Abdul Razzaq al-Baytar, he was mentioned that he's from the most sharp students for them, even that he was still young. And there were some senior scholars that they studied to them, like Sheikh Hamid al-Taqi. It's different than Hamid al-Faqi, and many other scholars in Damascus. But Jamal al-Din Bahjat Baytar, he was considered that he is the most, he's the best of their students. Also, he was teaching in Ramadan in the Grand Umayyad Mosque, the Grand Mosque of Damascus. That was from the time of Umar radiallahu anh. It was before a church, and before a church it was a temple. It's like 5,000 years old, and I think it's famous for most of you. So he was teaching here in Ramadan, giving lessons. In the year 1338, he was 27 years old. It was his first travel to go to Najd and Hijaz. That time, Najd was under the control of King Abdulaziz. He was Sultan Najd, and Hijaz was still until that time under the rule of Al-Ashraf. And he wrote a book about his traveling called Al-Rihla al-Najdiyya al-Hijaziyya. It's a really interesting book. It was about his travel that year. It was 1920 equals that time. So it was 100 years ago, and he wrote everything what he faced and how several times from the Bedouins he was almost killed, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala survived him. He returned to Damascus after he performed Hajj, and he was elected as one of the committee of Al-Majma' al-Ilmi al-Arabi in Damascus. That's the year 1340. Then after that, he was also elected in Majma' al-Qahira, then Majma' Baghdad, so he was also well known in Arabic linguistic. Also, when he returned to Damascus, he was a teacher in the primary school of Al-Maidan. From that time, he was beginning to be, his fame began to spread, and he was well known that he's from the main student of Jamal ad-Din Qasimi and the Salafi movement in Damascus. So he was, King Abdul Aziz asked him to come in the year 1344 when Malik Abdul Aziz took Mecca from Al-Ashraf, and he was now the ruler of Hijaz. He invited many scholars, among them was Shaykh Muhammad Bahjat Baytar in the Common Islamic Conference in Mecca. So he reached there and he came to the conference and also performed Hajj. And when King Abdul Aziz saw him, how intelligent he was and how qualified, he asked him to stay there to establish the first schools and the modern type of schools in the new Saudi Arabia. In that year, it was also had something good to say about that year. It was the year that after the conference, there was a big meeting for Ahl al-Hadith from India that they came to Mecca, and also Sheikh Rashid Rida came from Egypt, and Sheikh Muhammad Bahjat Baytar came from Damascus. And there was some senior scholars like Abdullah bin Bulayhid, the head of the court of Mecca. And there was from India came the Ghaznawiyin and also Sheikh Thana'ullah Amratsari. And there were that time the settlement came between Thana'ullah Amratsari and the Ghaznawiyin because there were some arguments 20 years before when Abdul Haq Ghaznawi he wrote his book about Arba'in that Thana'ullah is not from the Muhaddithin, about for the Tafsir Thana'i and his speech about the characters of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was some argument that time. I think that many of you have an idea about it. So after that, this conference, there was a settlement between them, and there was a small booklet was printed called Sulh al-Ikhwan ala Yad al-Sultan. So Muhammad Bahjat Baytar, he was from those who made the settlement between Ahl Hadith in India that time. He stayed in Mecca, and they established the institute, the scientific institute, Al-Mahad al-Ilmi al-Saudi for 5 years. Also, he was teaching in Masjid al-Haram. And also, when he was going to Medina, he was teaching there. So he was teaching in both Masjid al-Nabawi and Masjid al-Haram. And he was very close to King Abdul Aziz. So he made him also from the very high, the senior judges in the court of Mecca. And then also in Idarat al-Ma'arif, to be also in the educational committee in all the Saudi Arabia, and also to be the inspector, the main inspector for the Durus in Al-Haram, and many senior jobs there. But after a few years, Muhammad Bahjat Baytar, after 5 years, he wasn't happy about being in the court. And what was mentioned from some of his students that even in that time, he wasn't taking any money about working in Al-Qada in the court, and he was only taking the salary from teaching. So at the year 1350, he asked King Abdul Aziz to return to Damascus. He returned to the mosque there, teacher and al-Khatib. Also, he was teaching in some private schools. After 3 years, 1353, he went to Beirut also. He was going every week once to teach in the college of Al-Maqasid al-Khairiyah for both boys and girls. So this is King Abdul Aziz, and on the left is Muhammad Rashid Rida. And this is the school, it was the school, it's not existed now, in Al-Maqasid al-Beirut, and this is the Majallat al-Manar that he was writing and also had the relation with Muhammad Rashid Rida. So he was teaching in Beirut every Thursday, So what he was doing, because he was well known to save his time and to invest with his time. Okay, so he was every time when going by train from Damascus to Beirut, he was taking the book of his teacher, قواعد التحديث, the book by Jamal Din Qasimi, a very famous book in Mustalah al-Hadith, and he was correcting the provost for preparing to print it. And in the year 1354, Muhammad Rashid Rida rahimahullah passed away, and Muhammad Bahjat Baytar, he was the editor of this famous magazine only for a short time, then it stopped after that. The year later, he was also from the education ministry. He was a teacher in the schools of Hayy al-Maidan, and also he was also from the Ifta. Also, they made him to teach in a general teacher in the schools of Damascus. And in the year 1361, he was also in the college in the University of Damascus. He was the teacher of Tafsir and Akhlaq. And also he was teaching in the Dar al-Muallimin al-Ulya, that it will be the college for teaching teachers. And after that, after these, he stayed in Damascus 13 years. Again, King Abdulaziz in Saudi Arabia in the year 1363, he wanted to establish a big institute for teaching religious studies and Islamic studies. So he opened Dar al-Tawheed al-Saudiya fi al-Ta'if, and he asked him to come to be the head of this high institute. It was the higher institute in Saudi Arabia. So the Syrian government sent him to Saudi Arabia, and he traveled, went to Baghdad, then Basra, then Kuwait, then Riyadh, then Medina to Mecca. He performed Hajj, and he stayed 3 years, and he was the establisher of this school that graduated the most well-known scholars in Saudi Arabia later. For example, Sheikh Abdullah al-Bassam and many others, that they were from Hayat Kibar al-Ulama. So many of them, they were his students. And he returned after 3 years to Damascus, also teaching in the University of Damascus. This is Dar Tawheed al-Ta'if, the old building, and the building later, still until now. And this is the University of Damascus when he returned to teach. Then he retired at the year 1374, but still he will continue his teaching in mosques and writing articles, and also in the radio, and giving lectures in the radio, and also he will give some lectures in the College of Sharia, and also he was still working with Majma' al-Lugha in Damascus and Baghdad and Cairo together. And Adnan Khatib, who was Rais Majma' al-Lugha, the head of the Majma' al-Lugha, said that he was the most person active in the Majma'. In the year 1380, King Saud, he was now 7 years the king of Saudi Arabia after King Abdulaziz. He asked Bahjat Baytar, because he knows he's qualified, that they want to have the project to open Al-Jami'a Al-Islamiyya, Islamic University in Medina. So they asked him to write the curriculum, the main curriculum. He wrote it, and he sent it to the Mufti Muhammad bin Ibrahim al-Sheikh. Then he came to the university when it was opened next year at the year 81, and also he gave some lectures there. This is the Islamic University, some of the old photos. And this is the first committee when they meted, and you can see the names who were there. And Sheikh Bahjat Baytar, he is, you can see it on the left. This is his name. He is Sheikh Abdulaziz ibn Baz, and you can see Sheikh Ali Tantawi, Abdul Razak Afifi, Sheikh Al-Albani, Dawood Ghaznawi, Ali Abu Hassan Nadwi, and Muhammad Al-Abbad, Abdul Hussein Al-Abbad, Muhammad Ibn Shanqiti, and many other scholars from the main scholars from all the Islamic world. And Sheikh Bahjat Baytar, he was among them. So he was really in Damascus. He was well known that he's the head of the Salafi school in Damascus. Many benefited from him. Even many came to the Salafi movement because of him. For example, Sheikh Ali Tantawi, and even his teacher who taught him French, also he converted to Islam because of Sheikh Bahjat Baytar. he was well known and had a lot of people that were influenced from him. He wrote a lot of books, 15 books. As we said, from the early ones, he was only 19 years old and 20 years old. From the famous books that he printed, he also, that was from his last books, Hayat Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. This is from his last books, and he edited many books, like from the famous one is Masail Imam Ahmad by Abi Dawood al-Sijistani. And this is from a very old manuscripts. It's written in the life of Imam Abi Dawood, from the oldest manuscripts in Maktaba al-Zahiriyya, and also from the famous books that he edited is Qawad al-Tahdith for his teacher Jamal Din Qasimi, and Hilyat al-Bashar, the history for his grandfather Abd al-Razzaq Baytar. He was also writing in many other senior magazines like Al-Manar, and after that Al-Hadi al-Nabawi, that was by Hamd al-Faqi in Hijaz and Egypt, and also in Majallat al-Tamaddun al-Islami, and he was part of the society Jam'iyyat al-Tamaddun al-Islami. This magazine was very famous. If you know that Sheikh al-Albani, rahimahullah, Muhammad Nasir al-Albani, the start of his articles was in this magazine, and also the beginning of Silsilat al-Hadith al-Sahihah wal-Da'ifa, he was writing in this magazine. Then he collected the first collections and printed, our Shaykh Ziad Tuklah rahimahullah printed, and the series of Silsilat al-Hadith al-Sahihah wal-Da'ifa started from this magazine. So Shaykh Bahjat Baytar also was had a lot of articles, and also he wrote a lot of introductions and taqreed for many books like Al-Naqd wal-Bayan for Izzuddin al-Qassam and Kamil al-Qassab, and also he had a lot of letters sending to many scholars for many issues. For example, his son told me that he had 1,000 letters between him and between Muhammad Rashid Rida, and he had a lot of letters with the main scholars of Iraq and India and Hijaz and Egypt. That will be also has a lot of historical importance. Also, he was a poet. He had a lot of good poems. One of them is in Madih al-Nabawi, and he presented one in his book Al-Rihla al-Najdiyya al-Hijaziyya. And he had a lot of things. He traveled many times for teaching and for da'wah, twice to Egypt and once to Russia, one to Palestine, one to America, and he went to Hind and Pakistan, and he went to Hajj several times. And I've seen one letter. Sheikh Ibn Baz said that he met Bahjat Baytar in the Hajj of the year 1363, and he listened to his maw'idah. Shaykh Ibn Baz listened to a maw'idah from Muhammad Bahjat al-Baytar. He was really well known about his manners. He was a school of manners, very generous, and also pious and zahid, and he was had a lot of patience from ignorant people, because he was many times attacked because he was well known that the head of the Salafi school, but he was really, his stories are very very strange. I will give some of his stories. So Muhammad Rashid Rida, even when he was still young, he wrote that he's Alim al-Sham, and many others wrote many good things about his manners and how he was in his stories. He was ill when he was 85, and he stayed in his house for a few weeks. Then he passed away, rahimahullah, Yawm al-Sabt, in Saturday, the 30th of Jumad al-Ula in the year 1396, rahimahullah. And he had a very great janazah, and all people came to his janazah, and he was buried in Damascus, where he was born. Rahimahullah ta'ala. So he had, if you want to look about his biography, he wrote about himself in the end of his book Al-Rihla al-Najdiyya al-Hijaziyya, and from his most extended biographies are written by Adnan al-Khatib in a booklet called Majma'iyun Iftaqadna, and also Bashir Ibrahimi wrote in Jarid al-Basair about him, and his student Ahmad Ratib al-Naffakh, and also his student Muhammad Ali Tantawi in Rijal al-Tarikh, and also Musallam al-Ghunaymi and Saadi Abu Jail from his main students. They also wrote good articles about him in the Majal al-Tamadul Islami, and he has a great biography in Tarikh Ulama Dimashq في القرن الرابع عشر from our Shaykh Muhammad al-Hafiz, and many others. And from these are from the original sources, but there are also some recent good research about him. One of them is by Usama Shahada in Bayan magazine, and also our friend Sheikh Muhammad Nasr al-Ajmi in his book Walid al-Qurun al-Mushriqa. And I made a wide biography for him in Arabic. It's printed in my book Ijazat Nadira. I think it's available in Makkah Library in Birmingham. So now we will go to the second part of his biography about his stories. As I told you that I need some words to say it in Arabic because it's not the English is not my first language, so please forgive me for any mistakes or shortness. So he had Izzatun Nafs, and he was not accepting from anyone anything. For example, this is a story that I heard from my Shuyukh Abdurrahman al-Bani and Muhammad ibn Lutfi al-Sabbagh rahimahullah. They are both students of Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, and also I heard it from Asim, the son of Shaykh Bahjat Baytar rahimahullah. Rahmatullah al-Jamii, they are all passed away. He told me that when King Abdulaziz, he was admired from the work of my father in establishing the new system of education in modern education in Saudi Arabia. He asked him to come, and he gave him a gift in his majlis. So he said that Shaykh Bahjat, he refused, and he didn't take it. And then the King Abdulaziz, he said, you must take it. And Shaykh Bahjat, he said, please, I will not take it. Then King Abdulaziz, he was angry, and he said, look, Shaykh Bahjat, our gifts, nobody can reject it. You must take it. And I will not accept that you don't take it. And the king was angry. So he said, when my father saw King Abdulaziz, he was angry really. He said, okay. He took the gift and he stayed standing, and he began crying. So King Abdulaziz asked him, why you are crying? He said, because I didn't take from anyone before you. You forced me to take it. I didn't take from anyone. So when King Abdulaziz saw him, he said, okay, if it's like this and it will make you cry, please, forgive us, and we'll forgive you. No need to take it. And also, in his book, Rihl al-Najdiyah, he said that the king gave him 2 cars when he was in Dar al-Tawheed, and he took it from the king and directly gave it to the school to make it on public use, not to make it for himself. And also, once one of the princes in Saudi Arabia gave him 1,000 liras. And that time it was a very big amount of money. It could buy a house. So the entire amount of all this money, he gave it to the orphan organization in Damascus. And he has a lot of stories like that he will give some lectures and some works, and he will refuse and will not take the payment. And as we said before, when he was in the head of the court in Mecca with teaching, he wasn't taking anything from, he was denying to take anything from working in the court. He was just taking his salary from teaching. Even that the salary of the court was double his salary of teaching. And one of his students, Sheikh Dr. Ratib al-Nafakh, he said that in his end of his life, when he was speaking about his memories, about what he was making before, and when he was remembering that he was once in his time, in his life, he was a judge, he was crying, and he said that he can't continue speaking from how he was emotional and crying. Uncle Sulaiman Hafian, the father of my friend Sheikh Dr. Umar Hafian, he told me several times that he was working in the television station in Damascus. He was an engineer there, and Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, he was going there, and the television in Damascus, the station is on the mount of mountain Qasyun. So nobody can reach there until they go from by the bus. to reach there because it's not a place that you can walk and go there. So he said once I was going from the station that goes the coach goes from there to the station and to the television station, and Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, he came, but I saw him, he was trying to search in his pockets, but I realized that he didn't have money with him. So it was something like 1 lira or 2 lira or something like that, something like you will say quarter pound. So I gave and I paid the ticket for him, and he was really shy that sorry, I forgot to bring money with me like that. He said after a while, he came to the bus and he saw me and he directly came to me and paid. He said, okay, thank you very much. This is what you paid me last time. He said, it's nothing to speak about. It's nothing. He said, even, you should take it. And in one time, Sheikh Lutfi Sabah said that once Sheikh was walking on a street, and one of the very famous merchants of his quarter, Al Maidan, saw him and he asked him, please, I will pick you and I will take you wherever you want. The Sheikh said, okay, Jazakallah khair. He was a very rich man and a very expensive car. So when he reached where Shaykh Bahjat Baytar wanted, he took some money from his pocket and said, okay, thank you very much, and this is the payment for your journey. He said, what you're saying? Well, you know me, I'm the merchant, and this is like a gift. He said, even, you made me a favor and I need to give you as like that. So he said that people were like laughing in the street, and that man was really angry. But Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, he said, no, you gave me a lift, I will pay it for you. Shaykh Sabah told us from the main students of Shaykh al-Baytar, he said that if Shaykh al-Baytar wanted dunya, he would be from the richest of the richest, because he had very special relations with kings and princes everywhere, especially in Saudi Arabia. But he didn't ask anyone, and he was most of his life poor. And when he passed away, he had nothing with him. And this is the story that we will take later, inshallah ta'ala. Sheikh Abdul Qadir Ma'ud told us that the Sheikh was teaching in some schools and some places, and he wasn't taking the salary. Others, they knew that Shaykh Bahjat, he will not take the salary from there. They will go and they will claim that they will take it to Shaykh Bahjat, and they will take it for themselves. And Shaykh will not ask about it. And once also, our Shaykh Sabah, Muhammad Sabah, told us in his house while he was inviting Shaykh Abdul Qadir Ma'ud and Shaykh Abdul Rahman al-Bani, and said that Shaykh Zuhair al-Shawish, rahmatullah al-Jami', he wanted to give Shaykh Bahjat Baytar some money about because he printed some books for Shaykh Bahjat, and he wanted to give him the payment of this printing. And Shaykh Bahjat also refused. And he said, Jazakallah khairan, I must give you money because you are printing for me and you are spreading my knowledge and things like that. So all of them said that he was really zahid in this dunya. Shaykh Muhammad Muti' al-Hafidh told us in Tarablos that when he was working with Shaykh al-Baytar in Majma' al-Lugha al-Arabiya, and he's taking the payment for his Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, he's taking the payments for his articles in Al-Majma'. He was taking the payment and directly giving it to the workers there and to the cleaners and poor people there. And he said he and another person called Haytham al-Khayyat were making that. Musallam al-Ghulaimi, in his article about Bahjat Baytar, said that when Shaykh Bahjat Baytar passed away, all poor people in his area came to his janazah, because he was always giving him his salaries and every that, and he was really beloved from all people. One of his stories, to know what example this man was, Musallam al-Ghanaimi, also from his very close student, said in his article that when Bahjat Baytar came from Saudi Arabia, he had some payment that he was gave as the end of his services. So he came there, and it was the first time he came, still France was colonizing Syria. So the Ministry of Education stopped, and the jobs from the government stopped. So what Shaykh Bahjat Baytar will do, he said that let us open a private school with his very close friend, Shaykh Izzuddin al-Tanukhi, and his old student, Taysir Dabyan. And he borrowed them from his money. And they opened the school, but this school didn't survive and didn't succeed. So after 1 month, it locked and it stopped working, and they closed the school. And Al-Ghulaimi, who wrote this article, said that after 1 year, I asked Shaykh Bahjat, what did you do with the money that you gave them? So he told him, he said, look, my son, this project and this this school didn't succeed, and it was closed, and they didn't have anything from it. So even if I lose my money, does it mean that I will lose my my old friend Izzuddin or my old student Taysir? This is my brother and this is my son. And to lose friends doesn't worth all the dunya to if I lose these close friends because of some money. So I want you to know that I forgive them. I will not ask them for the money that I come. And that was his full reward from teaching Saudi Arabia. Another story, Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Bani and Sheikh Maluf Sabbagh told me that once when he went to the dars of his teacher, Muhammad Khadr Hussein, it was in winter and it was a snowing day and it was like a snowstorm. And they said that no one thought that anyone can go outside his house at that time in Damascus. And because there's hardly to find anything to public transport or buses or taxis. So Shaykh Bahjat Baytar even in these conditions, he went to the dars time for Shaykh Muhammad Khadr Hussein, who was really know that he was a bit anxious man. So he came a bit late because of what we've seen, that every place was snowing and there was no public transport. So when he came and he knocked the door for his Shaykh was opened the window up the door and he showered Shaykh Bahjat with water, and he said, this is because you came late to my dars. So Musallam al-Ghanaimi, when he also add this story in his article about the death of Bahjat Baytar, he said that the story didn't finish like this. That's what I heard from Shaykh al-Bani and al-Sabbagh. But Musallam al-Ghanaimi said that later I was coming to one of his durus, and we came also, he had a dars after Fajr, and we came late and Sheikh was waiting us. Then we didn't come, so he went to our mosque and he asked about us and he didn't find us. That was because we work very late. So he returned to his house and it was raining in the winter. So later, very late, Al-Ghanaimi came, the Shaykh Musallam al-Ghanaimi, with his friend in his dars, Naim al-Biطار, and they went to the house of Shaykh Bahjat Baytar after sunrise. The dars was after Fajr prayer. So he opened and he was smiling and welcome, and I prefer now breakfast is prepared, please have your breakfast with me. And while they were eating the breakfast, he told them his story with his teacher and he smiled. That's what he told them, that look, when I was late, that was what was my teacher made with me, and look, when you are coming, he was smiling, that's it. And they said that that was very, very hard type of giving us a lesson how he was. As we said before, that because the Sheikh, he was the head of the Salafi school in Damascus, he had a lot of people that they hated him and tried to, like even sometimes to beat him sometimes. One of the stories, and in the Maidan, people were two sides, two parties. One supporting him and know how he is. Even some of them, they are not Salafis, but they respect this Sheikh and know how pious he is and how example he is. And another, they are extreme Sufis who were always against him. And they were, one of them told me that in his time, he was one Sheikh that I know him by his name in Damascus. He passed away, rahimahullah. He was elected from some scholars, from the Sufi scholars of Damascus, to go to his dars and always to interrupt him and to give arguments to him to try to waste his dars. And Shaykh Bahjat, he was very calm and very soft and giving example to how patient he was. In that time, they will send another person to cut off the electricity in his dars. That happened several times. But that was also not an issue for him even. Even it was also reaching his students and even the students of his students. One of the stories, Shaykh Abdul Ghani al-Daqr, rahmatullah alayhi, he told me, and also Shaykh Abdul Qadir Naut and Shaykh Bakr al-Tarabish, he told me the story about Shaykh Abdul Ghani al-Daqr, that once he was seen, quote, that he was shaking hands with Shaykh Bahjat Baytar. Directly, some went to his father, Shaykh Ali al-Daqr, and said, oh Sheikh Ali, look, your son went to Sheikh Bahjat Baytar, the Wahhabi. And he said after that, Sheikh Abdul Ghani Daqar, he was boycotted, and no one from his, and he was fired from teaching and from his job. And after that, he even he had to sell his library to support himself. And Sheikh Musallam al-Ghunaymi said that his relation with Sheikh Saad al-Yasin was something like a tuhma, because he was a student of Sheikh Bahjat al-Baytar. And he said Sheikh Bahjat, even when he was seeing somebody trying to make arguments with him, he was always smiling and giving soft words and giving a lot of patience. Sheikh Ali Tantawi said that from the first time I contact with Sheikh Bahjat, it gave me a lot of problems in my life, because most of my teachers, they were usually with the extreme Sufi side, and they will be avoiding Wahhabiyya even they don't know what is Wahhabism. That's what Sheikh Ali Tantawi is saying. So once that somebody caught him that he was going to the dars of Sheikh Abdul Qadir Badran, and they said that they made like a court to me, and then they gave him, they call it falaqah, hit him by a stick in his legs. And once he went also to Sheikh Bahjat Baytar, and they went to Shuyukh and said that now Sheikh Tantawi is going Wahhabi and things like that. So he is saying how much he was suffering. And in that time, to know in Damascus, that time, the last century, at that beginning of that century, the word Wahhabi was almost meaning Zindiq. People could be very good with Christians, with Jews, with any other religion, but if this man is called Wahhabi, that means that's the end, and he will be punished, and everyone will be against him, and be boycott and all this. So that is to know how, even for example, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Badran, rahimahullah, when he passed away, no one went to his janazah only because he was known that he was Wahhabi. But that was, this was melting time from time, until now it's a bit less than it was before, but before it was very extreme against Salafi movement in Damascus. One of the stories, Uncle Musallam al-Harash, rahimahullah, he was from the main persons in Maidan. He told me that once some people, they wanted to hit and to beat Sheikh Bahjat Baytar while he's making khutbah al-Jum'ah. And that time he was khatib in Masjid al-Daqqaq, as we said that it's the second biggest mosque in Damascus. So when he started to begin the khutbah al-Jum'ah, one started and said, this Sheikh Bahjat, he claimed in a loud voice, Sheikh Bahjat says this mas'ala is bid'ah. What's your opinion, Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Tibi? He was a Sufi scholar there. And he said, no, it's not like that. And then the mosque came like two parties. Some wanted to attack the Sheikh and some wanted to defend. But what happened that time? The nephew of Sheikh Bahjat Baytar, his name is Izzu al-ALHAQQ. He was like a gang person, and he had a lot of stories, and he several times, he killed some persons before, and there was long stories for him. Then he was religious and started, but he was well known that he's a very tough person. So, and usually he will have the gun with him wherever he goes. So he took out his gun and said, anyone, if he wants to go to my uncle, Sheikh Bahjat, I will now shoot him here in the mosque. And because people knows this person, what he says he do, because before it was an Ashura time, and he went to a movement of Shia for Ashura, and he was mocking them, then they attacked him, and he killed two from them, and like that. So the people knows that this person, if he says he do. So after that, all people, the mosque was quiet, no one said anything, and he raised his head and said, okay, uncle, continue your khutbah. And Sheikh Bahjat, he was sweeting and saying, no, you shouldn't say that, and it's a mosque like that, but okay, that's what happened. Sheikh Asim al-Biطار, the son of Sheikh Bahjat, he told me that once he was in the house of Sheikh Muhammad Makki al-Kattani, from the head scholars of Damascus, and one of the people that there from the Sufi shuyukh, he said, for all the people, say Ameen. They said Ameen. They said, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take and to make for the death of Sheikh Bahjat Baytar. And Sheikh al-Makki, he was really angry because it was in his house and he's well known and he's not extreme like that person. And Asim, because he's taking the manners of his father, he said, look, I will go to my father and I will say this sheikh is sending you salam. And he went and went away. So that was how he was soft and how he was taking and facing from people about because about his ideology. But even he was soft, but not always he will be like that. As they say, ittaqi ghadab al-halim. So his student, Shaykh Sa'di Abu Jaib, told me that when Al-Ba'ath party came to rule in Damascus, and that time it was certainly announcing and clearly, openly that they are atheist and anti-religion and mocking Islam and all these things. So Mashayikh, it was before, it was a bit freedom for Shuyukh to speak in Damascus and Syria. So they gathered and in the house of Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, and they wanted to discuss what we should do in this case. Then he was like explode in anger. Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, he said, now you wanted to work. When people wanted to work correctly, you were fighting him, and you were only looking about what will benefit you, and you will not look about. And they were working with the youth, and you only was fighting people who was liking to make reformers like me and others. Now you realize that you need to work after things finish and after they are ruling now. So he said, then it was the first time I can see him that angry, but it wasn't because of himself. It was because he was very sad about what was happening. He was very generous, and also he had a lot of things to help and to support researchers. For example, Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, he was the person that had the idea to Shaykh Al-Albani to make his great book, Irwa al-Ghalil, and also Raghib al-Tabbakh, when he edited the book of Ma'alim al-Sunan, the commentary of Sunan Abi Dawud by Al-Khattabi, he said that I needed the book of Aoun al-Ma'bud by Shams al-Haq al-Abadi. And that time it was very rare. That time there was nothing to download from internet, or so could be the only copy. It was in the house of Sheikh, the library of Shaykh Bahjat, and he gave it to him until he finished his work. And many researchers said, for example, Hashim al-Nadwi, when in the ending of the 4th volume of Tarikh al-Kabir al-Bukhari from Hyderabad, he said that when we wanted to print the book, Shaykh Bahjat Baytar knew that, and he sent us a very valuable copy of the book from Al-Zahiriyya as a gift. Many scholars, he said that he was really generous, giving and giving from his science and giving from his money, and he was teaching the books of As-Salaf. So, for example, Dhafir al-Qasimi said that he was teaching Sahih Bukhari. Sa'di Yasin said that he was reading with him At-Tawheed Ibn Khuzayman, مقدمة ابن الصلاح, العلول الذهبي, اجتماع الجيوش الإسلامي ابن القيم, عقيدة السفاريني, إرشاد فحول الشوكاني. All these books are books that were not usually read in Damascus, and Muwafaqat Shatibi and others. In the biography of Sheikh Badruddin Hassani, we can see that Bahjat Baytar asked his teacher why we study Hadith. So Badruddin Hassani said, to work with Hadith. So he said, Jazakallah khairan, you are the first person to tell us this, because almost Mashayikh are telling us that reading Hadith is only for barakah, not to work, and not to only to make it for barakah and things like that. One of the stories, Sheikh Abdullah Alloush rahimahullah, who passed away a few days ago rahimahullah ta'ala, the father of Sheikh al-Mujahid Zahran Alloush, he told us that when he was a student in Riyadh, King Saud, he opened Al-Mahad al-Ilmi in Riyadh, and they sent some Syrian students to study. One among them was Sheikh Abdullah Alloush rahimahullah. So he told us that Shaykh Bahjat Baytar came to us, and he told us about how important to seek knowledge and to save time learning and researching. And he said, try to speak all your speech in fluent Arabic, Al-Arabiya al-Fusha, and make like a box. Whoever makes any mistake, he should put amount of money there. And Sheikh Ali Tatawi said before that Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, almost all his speech was by Al-Fusha. So he said in that, while he was speaking to us, he said one like a slang or an Ammiya word, then he smiled and he said, okay, I'm the first person that I made a mistake in Arabic language, so I will be the first to put money in this box, and he put there some money. There's a lot of things that we can say about this person, how his influence, how his contribution in many type of science. From the thing he had, Majlis al-Jum'ah, it was the most famous majlis in Damascus. They will gather scholars and literatures and all type of senior educator people in his house every week after Khutbah Jum'ah. So they will pray Jum'ah in his mosque. Then he will go there, and Sheikh Ali Tantai was like the director of this jalsa, this meeting. Every time they will give an idea, they will speak of something. Sometimes they will say, okay, this meeting we will have it only in, we'll only speak in poetry. Everyone want to make anything, he must give by like a verse or two verse, like that. And there was a lot of things and like discussion about scientific books and many ideas that came from this majlis. And what they said that Sheikh Ali Tantawi said that he was giving always that Sheikh Bahjat Baytar is serving them lunch, and he said that only kus al-mahshu, he should be every week that should be the food. And this majlis, many famous people from the Islamic world who visited Damascus came to his majlis in Friday, like Shakib Arslan, Muhammad Nasif, Abu Hassan Nadwi, Abdul Hamid bin Badis, Bashir Ibrahimi, Abu al-Ala al-Mawdudi, many others, they came to his majlis. What I can say about this person, because now we are almost at the end of our time, and there's a lot of things to say. From his stories also, Shaykh Bahjat Baytar, rahimahullah, he said, one of the says of Sheikh Bakr Tarabishi said, he was the highest chain in qira'at in the Islamic world, said that Sheikh Bahjat Baytar rahimahullah, he was مفخر دمشق علما وأدبا وسلوكا ومحبة لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم، وكان بعض أهل الميدان يؤذونه كثيرا ويتكلمون عليه، وأشهد أنه لم يتكلم فيه من يقاربه فضلا وعلما وأخلاقا وزهدا. And also he said that Sheikh was sometimes, he was when he was making the khutbah, when he remembers Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he mentioned them, he will cry and he say on the minbar fidaka ruhi ya Rasulullah. So he was not even following Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by his sunnah, but also in all his emotional and his nerves. If you remember Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Tibi that we mentioned, that one that he was the head of the Sufi Mashayikh that they will bother Sheikh Bahjat Baytar. Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Tibi passed away before Sheikh Bahjat Baytar, 7 years before him. So Sheikh Muhammad Bahjat Baytar came to his janaza and he said a word in his janaza and he said, رحمك الله يا شيخ عبد الرحمن يا ذا الخلق الكريم والطبع القويم والدرس المستديم، رحمك الله يا من جمعت بين العلم والعمل وكنت قدوة صالحة وتقوى الله كان في سيرك وعلنك. So he said a lot of good things to a person that he was mentioned that he was the most enemy for him in Damascus. So that's why Musallam al-Ghunaymi said that تجسدت فيه مكارم الأخلاق حتى كانت روحا وخلقا أكثر منها جسدا وخلقا. And also Sheikh Ali Tantawi said that I didn't ever see a person like him in all his aspects and all his acts. Many things that we can also mention. The last thing that I will give about his death, the story of his death. As we said that he was not taking a lot of his salaries and about what he was taking from his jobs. So his son Asim al-Bitar told me that when Sheikh Bahjat Baytar, he was always making dua that I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I will leave dunya without having anything. So suddenly when he passed away, we tried to search, he didn't have something enough that we can even make the janazah. He didn't have something enough for that. So when we were thinking what we should do, or who we should take money from, then the phone of his house rang, and when we answered, somebody said that I am from Ministry of Awqaf, and there's a small amount of money for Sheikh Bahjat. We found something that from his services that he didn't take. So what shall we do with it? So they said, just now Sheikh Bahjat Baytar passed away. He said, okay, I'm coming now, don't make anything, I'm coming in a few minutes to your house. So he came and he said, okay, look, if I will stamp from his finger, he's dead now, dead now. I'll put him in the ink and put that he like signed to take the money. If I don't make this, it will be very long journey to take this and to finish it. So take it like this now, and this is the amount. And what he said, Dr. Shaykh Hassan al-Baytar told me that what they took was exactly what was just enough to make his janazah, and he finished all his money with this janazah. And rahimahullah, he passed away from the dunya without having anything. Rahmatullahi alayh. Here is type of his hand script, the ijazah that he gave to my Shaykh Muhammad Musa al-Kattani, and also this is you can see here his gift to Muhammad Fuad Abdul Baqi, one of the books. And here is the book that I wrote, a biography, a long biography about him and his stories. أقول قولي هذا، نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يرحمنا وإياه وجميع مشايخنا ومن له فضل علينا. The thing about this scholar is about that he's an example in his manners, as his example in his contribution and his knowledge. When some will say about some Salafis or some that they are like, sometimes they don't have this manners or things, you can face with samples like him rahimahullah ta'ala. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Thank you very much for listening and for inviting me. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh Ziad. MashaAllah, it was a very beneficial talk. I mean, we hope next year, inshallah, if everyone gets vaccinated, and inshallah next year we can invite you with Sheikh Suhaib and other of our elders, scholars from UK, and Sheikh Walid Manisi and other scholars, and we can have a good conference in Cambridge with our community and others. Jazakallah khair. May Allah preserve you, Sheikh, and take many services from you. And
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for encouraging.